the center line of the trenches with spray paint by spraying along the strings. Now it's time to mark out an area for excavation of the trenches. Along the string joining pegs D and E and F and G, measure back towards the center of the pool 21 inches or 53 centimeters. Mark a line in the soil 2 inches or 5 centimeters on both sides of the string. Measure 17 inches or 44 centimeters to the outside of the pool and mark the earth 2 inches or 5 centimeters on both sides of the string. With your 2x4 as a guide, mark lines in the soil to join these two marks. Mark out an area for positioning patio stones under each buttress. Where you have marked the end of the buttress trench on the outside of the pool, measure 10 inches or 25 centimeters on both sides of the string on the center line and mark the soil. Measure out an additional 20 inches 51 centimeters and mark the soil again. Join these marks to complete a 20-inch 51 centimeter square. The marks for your excavation should look like this. Repeat these steps to mark out all the remaining buttress trenches. Now let's excavate the trenches. Temporarily remove any of the strings that are in the way. Using a flat spade and being careful not to disturb the soil around the edges, dig out the long, narrow part of the trench to a depth of 3 inches or 8 centimeters. Excavate the area where the patio stones go to a depth of 5 inches or 13 centimeters. Spread a layer of crushed limestone in the square part of the trench. Dampen the crushed stone lightly with water and tamp down firmly to a depth of 1 inch or 25 millimeters. Fashion a simple tamper by nailing a small piece of 2x4 to a 2x2 or 2x4 handle. Place a 2-inch thick, 12-inch square or 5 centimeter thick, 30 centimeter square patio stone onto the crushed limestone pad. Replace the strings joining pegs D and E and F and G. Measure back from these strings exactly 21 inches or 53 centimeters and align the front edge of the patio stone at this mark. Ensure the patio stone is level and properly positioned in the trench. Add another layer of crushed limestone to the long, narrow part of the trench and the area around the patio stone. Dampen it slightly with water, then tamp down firmly. The top of this limestone layer should be level with the top of each patio stone. Complete this foundation work for all the other buttress trenches. Now we'll assemble the buttress base channels. Place 2 buttress base channels back to back, ensuring you match the center holes on each channel. Secure the end closest to the center hole with a bolt and nut. Place a supporting bracket into each side of the channel at the other end and secure them with a bolt and nut. 2 reinforcing brackets are used in the middle of the channel. These brackets are marked with an arrow, which must point away from the supporting brackets, and these are secured using 2 bolts and nuts. Tighten all the bolts with a 7/16 inch socket or wrench. Assemble the other base channels in the same manner. Replace all the strings you have previously removed. Take one assembled base channel and place it under the strings into one of the buttress trenches. The end with the support brackets should sit on the patio stone 2 inches or 5 centimeters from the back of the stone. The other end should be 17 inches or 43 centimeters away from the string joining pegs D and E or F and G. The center of the channel should line up with the string marking the center of each trench, while the top of the channel should be exactly level with all the surrounding soil. If it's not, then remove the base channel and adjust the depth of the limestone pad and patio stone. Repeat this process with each of the buttress trenches to ensure they all have a properly prepared foundation. Now let's complete the buttress assembly. Locate a diagonal bracket. Fasten this diagonal bracket to the end of the base channel over the supporting bracket using 4 bolts and nuts. Tighten securely. Make sure the angle of this bracket faces the correct direction as shown. The diagonal bracket marks the top of the channel and the end which goes to the outside of the pool. The vertical support brackets are supplied joined together in left and right hand pairs. Simply bend them along their center seam to snap them apart. Locate a base channel plate and place it on top of the channel facing into the pool over top of the reinforcing bracket. Place 4 bolts into the holes of the base channel plate. The right vertical support bracket goes under the edge of the base channel and reinforcing bracket on the right side as you face into the pool. slip it onto the 2 bolts and fasten it tightly with 2 nuts. Repeat this process with the left support bracket. Locate and orient an upright. The bottom end of the upright has 3 drilled holes, while the top end has only 2. Place the bottom end over the base plate and fasten it securely with 3 nuts and bolts. As you tighten them, check to make sure there is a 1/16 inch 2 mm gap under the tab at the bottom of each upright. This will be important when you install the base rails. Remove the strings marking the center line of each trench and set an assembled buttress back in each trench. The end with the diagonal bracket should be exactly 2 inches or 5 centimeters from the back edge of the patio stone, and the buttresses should be parallel with each other. The back of the upright should just touch the strings joining pegs D and E or F and G. If you have more than one vertical on each side, find the curved buttress rails, which are color-coded or identified by part number specifically for your pool size. Insert a buttress rail between each set of uprights. Notice that the closed square side of the rail, not the grooved side, slides into the notch at each buttress upright. This will keep your uprights the correct distance apart. Fill the base channels and the trenches they sit in with crushed limestone, up to the top edge of the base channel. Stand on the base channels to prevent them from moving, dampen the limestone slightly, and tamp it down firmly. Be careful not to tamp too hard or you could shift the base channel. Add additional crushed limestone to achieve a level trench. It is important that you do not use soil or brick sand in these trenches. Recheck the ends of the channels to ensure they are exactly the same distance from each other. Drag one of the hold-down plates along the top edge of the base channel to ensure the ground around the base channels is exactly even and level. Use crushed limestone, tamped firmly, to adjust if necessary. Place 4 nut clips onto the end of the base channel nearest the center of the pool, with the threaded part of the nut clips facing down. Place one end of a hold-down strap over the nut clips and fasten in place using 4 bolts. Tighten the bolts snugly, but be careful not to over-tighten them. Repeat these steps for all the other base channels. Spread 3/4 of an inch or 19 millimeters of crushed limestone over the area for the hold-down plate, making sure you don't spread any material over the buttress base channel. Position a hold-down plate over the crushed limestone so that the bolt heads in the strap are covered by the first 2 grooves of the hold-down plate. Applying downward pressure on the hold-down plate, shift the plate back and forth until it rests tightly against the top of the buttress base channel. Check to see that the outside ends of the hold-down plate are completely filled with crushed limestone, and fill any voids you see. Filling these voids will prevent low spots forming around the hold-down plates when the pool is filled with water. Fasten the plate to the base channel by lining up the holes and using 2 self-tapping screws. If your pool, like ours, has 3 buttresses, you'll have to remove the middle stake and fill the hole with compacted material. Leave the 2 end stakes for the time being. Join the straps you've installed with additional straps to join the 2 sides of the pool. Put the bolt heads through the top of the straps and the nuts underneath. Cover all the bolt heads in the straps and hold-down plates with strips of duct tape. Now remove all the strings and pegs in preparation for adding the remaining base rails and base plates. From your hardware kit, locate the base plates, transition rails, and end rails. Transition rails are color-coded or identified by part number specifically for your pool size. The transition rails are the first rails that attach to the buttress verticals on the round ends of the pool. Again, slide the closed square end of the rail into the notch in the vertical with the grooved side up. Position a base plate on the other end of the transition rail. The groove edge goes to the inside of the pool while the wide flange is on the outside. To keep the rails from slipping out of the base plate, bend the first 1/8 of an inch or 3 millimeters of the base rail lip outward. Insert another base rail into the base plate, leaving a 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter gap between the base rails. A good idea is to cut several small pieces of wood about 3/8 inch or 10 millimeter square into small pieces and place these small blocks between the rails to maintain this spacing. Continue adding base plates and rails until the entire base is installed. Measure the distance from the wooden stakes to the base plates. The base of each base plate should be the same distance from these stakes and match dimension R from your ground preparation drawing. In our case, that's 90 inches or 229 centimeters. Once you have adjusted the base in this way, mark a 12-inch or 30 centimeter square area on the soil beneath each base plate. Now remove the assembled base by detaching it from the buttress uprights and set it aside. You will build a crushed limestone pad or place a patio stone under each base plate to add stability to the pool wall. Dig out the area you have marked under each base plate to a depth of 2 inches or 5 centimeters. If you are using patio stones, tamp down a small quantity of dampened crushed limestone to make a level base, and place the patio stone on this base. The top of the patio stone must be level and flush with the soil around it. You can also use a crushed limestone pad by filling the excavated area with lightly dampened crushed limestone and tamping it down solidly. Again, ensure this pad is level and even with the surrounding soil. Use a surveyor's transit or a 2x4 and a carpenter's level to ensure that all these pads are level with each other, then reassemble the rails and base plates. If you're installing a styrofoam base, it's now time to measure and cut the foam sheets. Slide the ends under the base rails so you can easily mark the radius, then remove and cut the sheets. Mark the location of each piece so it can be easily reassembled later. Remove all the pieces of styrofoam. Locate the vertical clips from your hardware kit. These are supplied together in right and left-hand pairs. Simply bend along the center seam to snap them apart. Check the profile of the vertical uprights on your pool against diagram 16 shown in your manual in section 2. If it matches either profile X or Y, then you should use the pair of holes on the vertical clip marked B, as identified in diagram 15. If the profile is like the one we're using, use the holes marked A. Using 2 self-tapping screws, fasten the left-hand vertical clip to the left vertical support bracket and the right clip to the right vertical bracket. Now set a vertical in place over these clips, but don't fasten it just yet. Locate one of the diagonals. Insert the end, which has 4 tabs, through the opening in the vertical. Holding the diagonal approximately horizontal, feed the 4 tabs into the slots on the buttress uprights. Pull upwards on the tab end so that the tabs slide up and lock into position in the slots. While maintaining this upward pressure, press the other end of the diagonal down onto the diagonal bracket on the base channel. Fasten the diagonal with 2 2¼ inch 57 millimeter bolts and nuts. Be careful not to over-tighten the bolts. Now fasten the vertical to the vertical clips with 2 self-tapping screws. Repeat this process for each of the buttresses. Cover the top edge of each upright with duct tape to keep the edges from scratching the pool wall when you install it. If you're using sand for your pool bottom, protect a section of your base rail and bring in a load of sand to cover the bottom of the pool to a depth of about 3 inches or 8 centimeters. Don't spread it out to the base rails yet, but smooth it